Valkyrie on station. The skies belong to us now, my friends, as we're here with the excellent new Apex Legends Stories from the Outlands, Northstar, to comment on the lore, storytelling, world building, and character development, and to finally herald the arrival of Kairi Imahara, Callsign Valkyrie. But, to talk about Valkyrie, we have to talk about Viper. And not only am I really glad that their foreshadowing of him being Valkyrie's dad paid off, but I actually really want to talk about him for once. Because, if you've seen my recent videos, you might be aware that I kinda hated Viper. And I speak in the past tense, because what a change this cinematic has made for the character. Going from feeling like an edgy tryhard who took himself way too seriously, to a caring father struggling to show his care for his daughter because he's always looking at the bigger picture amid the frontier war, who would do his job by the fucking numbers just to ensure that she could fly the skies freely one day, untarnished by his own legacy, is an absolute turnaround in my books. What a great character to develop, and what a great way to do it. Like, they even managed to maintain his general stoic badassery, but on top of using it for traditional cool points, of course, it's also used here to show how actually reliable, considered, and respected he was. But most of all, it's there to show the determination behind his wishes for Kairi. He had to be the best so that she could live for better. He would do the job so that she would never have to dirty her hands. But, if anything, that is exactly what she wanted to do. And it's this exact conflict that makes Overwatch's Pharah and her mother Anna so interesting to me in their silly little sci-fi universe. But, luckily here, in the world of Apex, it's actually been expanded upon, and it feels genuinely earned here. Becoming a Northstar pilot, and especially an Apex Predator, something Kairi aspired to from a young age, feels way more concerning from Viper's point of view during the Frontier War again, compared to Anna preventing Pharah from joining Overwatch post-Omnic Crisis. Viper then putting his life at risk to directly achieve those goals, trying to end the war, also just puts Anna's bureaucratic bitch slap to her own daughter to absolute shame in comparison. And while that's a greater character flaw on Anna's part, sure, in terms of giving the dilemma actual stakes beyond the trope of the daughter being denied their parents' mantle, right? Valkyrie has not only taken up that legacy already for her own sake, but it's come at so much more of a real cost for both parties. Not that both instances of that storyline haven't suffered, but Viper actually risked something, and Valkyrie then has to honour that risk and surpass her own demons surrounding it to be better, to live up to that. She's maybe projecting a bit too much of her loss into obtaining a spot in the games, okay, sure, but, again, good character flaw, and she's there ultimately to prove her worth to herself, in honour of, but despite her father, and that actually feels like a really great way for the first step in her character arc that we see to be completing her character arc, at least on the face of things. She's got her wings now, but she's gained them to prove that she can fly. It's also a lot more emotionally worthy than Pharah wanting a spot in Overwatch because gleamy, shiny, childlike awe, ooh, the good guys, and then realising it's not all it's cracked up to be, There's a lot of comparisons to be made here between those two, like, there's a very clear archetype at play here. But Valkyrie here seems to execute on the idea with actual genuine weight, while also providing additional context for an old Titanfall character that personally really needed the help in retrospect. A Northstar will always help you find your way home. And it's with that we come to Valkyrie's journey past Viper to her new home in the Apex Legends. First up, Rampart is apparently fixing her up a Northstar kind of wingsuit, which isn't the conflict I expected between those two by any means, but it's a nice way to make the world feel real and lived in for those two to cooperate through Blisk to get Valkyrie into the games, acting as a homage to both Titanfall and Viper simultaneously, building from the old towards a new legacy, almost representative of Apex Legends in itself, right? And then when you speak of legacy, sir, Blisk here works excellently in this short to parallel Kairi's backstory and to expose her inner doubts, that she's not worth her father's salt, and that his concern for her was actually him just believing the same. The word pilot used to mean something, and it doesn't anymore, girl. Arrogance will get those you love hurt. won't it? Viper did leave because of Kairi. She's right to assume that, but in the wrong way. It wasn't because he didn't love her, it was exactly the opposite because of his love for her. Like, even his cold instructions to her when the Northstar is crashing don't actually come from a lack of emotion, it seems, but from his faith in her. He expects her to be able to focus and to control the flight herself. But even now, in the present, she's still not able to fully see that. And that's what's really brought her here. The Apex Predators and the war took her father away from her, and by moving past the desire for vengeance, here she might be able to find a way to honor the faith that Viper actually had in her by realizing it and then earning it for herself. Okay, that's not all that brought her here. She evidently flew here somehow, as Valkyrie evidently visited Typhon to reclaim the wrecked Northstar, seemingly back in 2731. That's what the first image was about, searching the stars, the Apex Predators being like the stars of the IMC, right? And having then been on Typhon, but then made it to the Outlands in less than 3 years, that suggests even further to me what I've been speculating, that she had to use a Branthium-powered jump to get from the frontier to the Outlands in less than the 20 years that sort of journey is supposedly meant to take. Thank Bangalore and Pathfinder's Quest for that info. So perhaps Valkyrie found an Arc Shard in her visit to Typhon, or maybe the fold weapon test that was done on Typhon's moon, Orthros, turned some of its matter into Branthium through gravitational compression, in a similar manner to how you make diamonds out of carbon, right? And then Valkyrie collected some of that to power her spaceflight to the Outlands. It just feels weird to me, ultimately, that she's made such a trip when, again, Bangalore's whole deal is that she can't get back to Gridiron that easily. But Typhon and Gridiron seem to be in comparatively closer proximity to each other than the Outlands and the Frontier, at least when it comes to interstellar space. Like, they both fell in the same closing year of the Frontier War to the Militia. It seems they're both in a similar enough region of the Frontier for the 20-year travel to apply, right? But that's not the only thing to find on the remains of Typhon. Never mind that there's apparently still an atmosphere all the way up here, somehow, and that we may even have been led to Viper's Titan through certain in-game hints, but there's actually another Titan to be found here, if you know where to look. Going to the Apex Legends website and their section on Season 9, Legacy, we can see that Valkyrie has stumbled across what very well could be the remains of our old friend and upholder of Protocol 3, Pilot Protector and Vanguard Titan, BT-7274. Whether BT is actually returning or not in any capacity, I obviously can't say, although it's supposedly kinda hinted at in the credits of Titanfall 2, but I'd say for now that this is at least definitely something to keep your eye on for the future. And actually, speaking of keeping your eye on things, watch out for these goons of Blisk's, because I'm pretty sure that these are members of Big Sister's gang, or loans from the Syndicate to her gang for some nefarious purposes, right? Whether these guys will present a new problem for Rampart, or show her that Blisk actually used them to test her metal, uncertain for now. But as Crypto seems to be a key player in the upcoming Overtime comic, and we're all obviously very desperate to connect Mila to Big Sister, right? I'd imagine we'll see these goons, at least, pop up again there, in Overtime. Especially since the Syndicate is going to be fixing the games in that storyline. An idea that should sound pretty familiar when you think back to Mila and the algorithm, and Big Sister's Syndicate influence manipulating the gauntlet. And that's not the end of it. Ash is evidently also going to play into this storyline in some form, especially concerning Valkyrie, but given Northstar, she might not actually be anywhere near as interested in Ash now as we first thought. And we do still have her arena teaser left to factor in when establishing her allegiances and motivations. I think the final teaser image does point out that Valkyrie has picked up one of Ash's encrypted invitations though, which could be her way into that storyline for the future. So then, for something a bit more present to close out on, I'll go back into Northstar properly itself now, and I just want to praise some of the incredible animation on display here. with Kairi's flying sequence standing out especially to me, as it uses like a really strong mixture of 2D and 3D animation to produce these distinctly stylized and expressive visuals. This looks cool as hell, man. Sadly, the characters' facial models occasionally dropped into the uncanny valley a bit. That's my one actual real big complaint about this short, but the actual like motion and animation on display was really strong all round, so I can't really complain too much. The direction of the short then actually also really helped elaborate on those past and present storylines simultaneously, good work Blisk, while also reflecting their emotional context, good work Blisk and Valkyrie. And this shot in particular felt super reminiscent of Han Solo at the bar with Greedo, just to really set the tone for this scene. So, Valkyrie herself looks set to keep good tone, with her flight suit and rocket pods giving her a unique fighting style in the Apex games, and a strong attitude paired with emotional drive keeping the wind beneath her wings. Brilliant work on the part of Valkyrie's VA, Erika Ishii. I honestly can't wait to hear more of her snappy-ass dialogue in the game to properly see how she plays, and for her story to develop into the future. But, with that, that's enough out of me. Thanks for staying with me, friends. I hope you enjoyed Northstar and my breakdown of it today, and to see you all again next time. I've been Euclidean Vision, the emotional support. Take care of yourselves out there, teammates, and may the glorious light of Best Girl shine within you. Bye-bye.